Alright, what's up, YouTube? This is Big Mike yet again, coming back at you. I got a request yesterday after the breaking news that Derrick Rose will be traded to the New York Knicks. I got a request to do a little bit, a follow-up video, a little bit more in depth about it. So I had to read a little bit more particulars, I did, some of the stuff I had to read, get a little bit better gist of things about the situation. Okay, I think as far as all parties involved, this was the best move. Derrick Rose, I think, feels from what I've read, this is the best case scenario for him because this gives him another home, just somewhere else to start over. All right, a new chapter because. I remember when he came into the league, I think it was 2008 when he came to the league. He was the Chicago hometown kid. Those of you who are a little bit younger, like really young, like 21 and under maybe, or 20 and under, you may not remember when Rose was at his MVP best. I was actually a little critical of the media because they were doing to him what they're doing to Stephen Curry now. They was calling him like the most dominant point guard since Magic Johnson and all these different things. He was the most athletic point guard in NBA history. Now they changed the tune, says Russell Westbrook and all this different stuff. But he was still tremendous in that season when he averaged 25 points, 25 point something points, and whatever, 4 or 5 rebounds and 6 assists or whatever the numbers were. I can see he had a great MVP caliber season. But I remember after that playoff game where he got injured, I think it was against the Pacers, and where Tom Thibodeau was afterward criticized for playing some of his players so many heavy minutes. And then after that playoff game, Rose just became habitually injured. And I understand that it's not his fault that he gets injured. It's not. But after a while, as a fan, it starts grating on your nerves. And I know it's totally unfair. I know it is. But it's just like you get tired of it. It's so like if you have legitimate reasons as to why you can't keep coming to work, but your employer, even though they understand, they get tired of it. So... And also, it's just, hopefully, even though I talk a little shit sometimes, guys, I'm an entertainer, I try to make people laugh, and I mix humor in with information, but I hope the best for him, though, I really hope that I'm wrong. I hope that the situation works perfectly for him in New York, and I hope that he's an Iron Man. I hope that he makes a liar out of me and everybody else, and this guy's fucking Cal Ripken in New York. But his story just reminds me so much of past legends, or not to say that I think Derrick Rose is a legend. I don't think he did quite enough or accomplished quite enough. But he reminds me of guys who in the past could have had even more brilliant careers, like a Ralph Sampson, who came into the league, revolutionary type player, a center with ball handling ability and guard skills. You didn't see that before Ralph Sampson. Or go a decade earlier, the brilliant Bob McAdoo, who came in from North Carolina, went to the Buffalo Braves, now known as the Los Angeles Clippers. Well, became the San Diego Clippers and then moved to Los Angeles where they reside today. And the guy won 3 consecutive scoring titles after his rookie season. I think 74, 75, and 76 campaigns. And put him 30 point, 30.8 points per game, 34.5 points per game, and 31.1 points per game. Brilliant player. I think he won an MVP award too. But Bob McAdoo was tremendous. But then he went to New York, and he wasn't quite the same guy. Had a string of injuries, and by the time he was playing with the Lakers in the 80s as a six-man, He just wasn't the same guy athletically. Uh, but his story reminds me of those type of players. And hopefully, like I said, New York it can work. I just don't think it will. I mean, you look at New York right now. You got Porzingis, who's a center, I guess, but he's a volume scoring center, which centers are supposed to be traditionally the most accurate field goal converters on the floor. Then you got Carmelo Anthony, who's the he's the textbook definition of a volume scorer. Then you got Derrick Rose, who's a volume scorer, even more so now. So I just see a lot of low-scoring, missed shot, ugly basketball games for the New York Knicks. Coming off of a 17-win season the year before, this season, with a 32-50 campaign or something like that, I see them doing marginally better. I think they're going to be around 500, if I had to take a guess. I think they might have stretches where they look great, but I think they're going to lose a lot of games they should have won. I think they're going to go something like 41-41 or 42-40 or something like in that realm. There might be an eighth seed, and I think that's about it. But I could be wrong. Now, as to who's going to get the better part of this trade or whatever, you never know. You can never make those snap decisions at this particular time. Okay, like for instance, you can think of remember the trade, well, those of you who are my age and older, remember the trade in 97 when Shawn Kemp demanded to be traded from the Seattle Supersonics because he was just disgruntled. He didn't like the fact that Jim McIlvaine got that big-ass contract, the center, and he was a complete bust. I mean, he did average like 2+ blocks per game or something like that. But he only averaged like, 4 or 5 points and 4 rebounds or something. And Shawn Kemp demanded to be traded to Cleveland. I think it was a 3-way trade. I think Kemp went to Cleveland. Terrell Brandon, who was emerging as an all-star point guard with the Cavaliers after the departure of Mark Price, he got traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, I think. And Vin Baker, who once was a star, people forget Vin Baker was a star, he got traded to the Seattle Supersonics. And many people thought that Shawn Kemp, Cleveland, was going to be the winner of that trade, but they ultimately weren't. Really, to be honest with you, I don't know if any team was a winner of that trade because Vin Baker just boozed and ate pizza himself to death in Seattle when he was out the league, probably within 6 or 7 years. Terrell Brandon kind of bounced around, never quite regained the same all-star status. I think he was still pretty good in Milwaukee, but with the acquisition of Sam Cassell a couple of years later, he was on the bench. He never regained the same status. And Shawn Kemp ballooned after he had himself a drinking problem. And I remember seeing Kemp that year, 97, 98, looking at him, I was like, wow, like Kemp looks a little husky, And then I remember after this lockout and came back, he was just a huge blimp of a Sean Blimp. So really, to be honest with you, the only winner of that trade to me were the Los Angeles Lakers because that broke up that Sonics team. Because Peyton eventually left the Sonics too. So that broke up that nucleus, that core nucleus, that Sonics team that was young. They could have had a couple pieces. And they could have been a championship contending against the Lakers for Western Conference supremacy. But for the Chicago Bulls, is this a win-all, be-all for us? Like I said, it's too early to say. In 88, we traded Charles Oakley for Bill Cartwright. Now, I remember that date, it was June 27th, 1988. And that was the same day that Mike Tyson knocked out Michael Spinks, the to become the undisputed heavyweight title champion. Because some people still considered Michael Spinks to be the lineal champion because he had defeated the lineal champion Larry Holmes, who Tyson never fought. Well, he did fight him, but by the time he fought him, he was washed up. He never did have the title at the time. So that was considered the lineal championship, and Tyson knocked him out, 91 seconds or something like that? But that same day, the Bulls traded Charles Oakley for Bill Cartwright. Now, in hindsight, that looks like a brilliant move because it gave us size and down low. They gave us size and improved defensive presence at the 5. And it gave us a little bit better offense too. Not to say that Bill Cartwright was gangbuster scorer, but it gave us a little bit better offense. At the time, though, that wasn't the case. People was like, well, you gotta remember, at that particular time, Horace Grant still was unproven. He was an unproven commodity. He was a tremendous athlete, but he hadn't been fully developed yet. That was, matter of fact, that was his rookie year. Yeah, that was his rookie year. Matter of fact, it was he and Scotty's rookie year, 87, 88. But the Bulls thought that they didn't need Charles Oakley anymore. But you got to remember, Charles Oakley was just coming off a season averaging 13 rebounds per game. Matter of fact, he and Michael Cage had a rebounding contest that came down to the last day of that season where Michael Cage needed to average, I think he had to grab like 26 or 27 rebounds or something like that. And he wound up grabbing 30 rebounds the last game of the season to win the rebound title over Charles Oakley. So taking in the context of that, people were like, well, what the fuck are you doing trading this rebounding behemoth? Like, why are you trading for this guy, Bill Cartwright, who's an under rebounder for his size? He's 7'1" and 2. What was Bill's size? About listed 235, probably like 250, 255. Okay, but he doesn't rebound very well. Why are you trading him for him? But now we see it was the right trade. So I don't know. I don't know how these things are going to play out. You never know. I do hope that we keep Jimmy Butler. I do. I really hope that we're somehow able to keep him. It gives me hope the fact that he wasn't the subject of this trade, rather as opposed to Derrick Rose. I know Derrick Rose probably didn't particularly like the fact that the face of the franchise and the focus of the franchise had shifted from him to Jimmy Butler. But I hope we're able to keep Jimmy Butler. From looking at the roster, we're young, which is a good thing in the long run situation, looking ahead for long run. We got a couple of old people on the team, Mike Dunleavy, but I like Mike Dunleavy because I always consider him a high IQ player, and I always think that high IQ players have a longer shelf life. These type of players that I think Mike Dunleavy is the type of guy that eventually might, after his playing career is done, hell, he might become a assistant coach somewhere, hopefully with Chicago, and maybe one day he'll be our coach. But like I said, I like high IQ basketball players because they have a longer shelf life, and they play the game cerebrally and able to stay in the NBA longer. But we need more pieces. We need a defensive big. Mirotic is fun to watch with these nailing threes, but watching Chicago this year was just depressing to say the least, looking at them from the defensive end. The way that this team was laid on rotations was so un-Chicago Bull-like. I mean, depressing to watch as a Chicago Bull fan. Remind me of the baby Bulls of the early 2000s, but at least I could give them excuses because they were young. They were a young team, very young. I remember Elton Brand was on that team, but he was the only bright spot. You had Elton Brand. You had, Jay Williams, who unfortunately got injured. Ron Mercer, who was a fucking bum. Oh my goodness, I'm in a brain fart right now. The center. Played with Dallas. Won a title there. Jesus, I cannot remember his name to save my life right now. And I remember we had Eddie Curry, another guy who ate himself out the league for a while. And I cannot remember the name of this guy I'm trying to recall, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Played with Dallas, played with New York. Led the NBA field goal percentage a couple of years. Turned out to become a very good defensive center and rebounder. Anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about, but I just can't think of his name right now. But we need some more pieces. We need another point guard. I think with the money, the cap money, I think the cap space that we required, I see it's like between $25 and $30 million. We can't sign any real big name people with that, but we can just sign like at least a short term deal of some type of quality point guard and defensive point guard, because Jose Calderon at this stage of his career is not going to get it done. Okay, I do kind of like Robin Lopez, but I think right now we need to focus on getting some other pieces and some defensive guys. I mean, yeah, that's my biased personal opinion. I like defense, but that's what I'm looking for right now as far as the Chicago Bulls is concerned. So that's my thoughts right now on this trade. Tell me what you think in the comment section. And I'm still trying to think of the name of the goddamn center. I'm having a brain fart right now, man. Any other damn time I knew his name just like that, and it's just blanking out on me right now. Tyson Chandler, that's it, goddammit. Tyson Chandler. Goddamn, I was gonna remember that shit. Alright. You guys tell me what you think.